Interested in a seller financing way of buying deals with very low money? Today's video is for you. Agreement for sale, or also known as AFS, will be today's video. It's actually a really cool way of buying deals with low money down and not having to qualify for any debt. If you're new to the channel, I'm Dave from Investor Mel and Dave. My wife and I have now purchased over 264 units in 5 different countries: Canada, US, Costa Rica, Mexico, and Dominican Republic. We are the proud founders of the Action Family Mentoring Program, and we were able to quit our jobs in our 30s. We release a new video every single week, so make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notified. So today will be a very simple explanation of AFS, Agreement for Sale. And I like illustration. I'm a very visual person. So this over here is going to be the asset. Okay, so the asset over here. All right, asset. And this is going to be controlled by the seller. So let's just put seller here because we're going to discuss the seller multiple times. Now in the middle here is the contract. And we're going to put up here POA, power of attorney. I will explain why that matters. And then over here is the buyer. He's got the same haircut as me. But anyway, this is literally the nuts and bolts of what you're going to need to understand today about agreement for sale. So the way an agreement for sale happens is seller over here decides, you know what, I want to liquidate my asset. And this can be for multiple different reasons, right? So the one that Mel and I just purchased in Edmonton a couple months ago, the reason why the seller agreed to actually do an agreement for sale was because he was moving from Edmonton all the way down to Calgary, and he no longer needed the asset, but he had just renewed a 2-year mortgage, and he did not want to break that mortgage, right? He's like, if I sell this right now, I'm actually gonna have to pay a big penalty on the mortgage that I just renewed, so instead, I'm gonna do an agreement for sale, and I'll chat about why they wouldn't break their mortgage in that case. So literally, the seller decided they wanted to sell. We went into contract with him to control the asset, and I'll explain how he doesn't actually sell it to us just yet. So we went under contract, right, with the power of attorney, meaning we now control this asset, okay? So we get to make the decision making, all that stuff for financing and selling. So we literally were able to now walk into a deal. I think this particular deal, we had to come up with $23,000 as a down payment. We did not have to qualify for any financing because there is no financing, right? It's an agreement for sale. It's a contractual agreement. So maybe let's back up. What ends up happening is the seller remains the owner of the property. They remain on title, on deed. And then the mortgage that's on the property also remains in the seller's name as well. So on paper, they still own it, and they still have the mortgage, right? They still have the debt on the actual asset. So this is the agreement for sale, right? This is the beauty of it, is you don't actually own it. You don't actually have to qualify, like I mentioned. However, the buyer over here now controls the asset over here. Done through a contract that they both mutually agree upon, right? It's not like the seller's not agreeing on this. They both mutually agree upon it, and now the buyer puts on a power of attorney. So this POA actually, kind of wraps this asset in a contract. It's also called wrap mortgages in the US. It's kind of the same concept. I wanted to give you a visual. So this contract wraps around this asset and the seller, okay? Now the cool thing is the buyer can now rent this place out. Right now he or she can now rent. I said he because I thought it was me here at the haircut. So now he can rent this place out. He can cash flow right from day one. Rent it out, cash flow, and then sell at any time. So they literally can sell this asset at any time during the period of the contract. So let's just go through an example. So the recent deal that Mel and I did, we purchased an asset in Edmonton with 21 months left on the term, because that's what they had left on their mortgage. Remember, they did not want to break it. So we got into the deal. We signed the contract, they signed the contract. We now have a power of attorney on that asset. We're now renting it out. Okay, because it's basically our deal. We're now renting it out and we're making cash flow from that deal every single month. Now, obviously, we still have to make monthly payments to them, right? So here's how they make money and here's how we make money. And I'm just gonna make up some numbers here for general purposes. So let's say I have to pay them $2,000 a month because they still own the deal, right? They're still paying the mortgage, they're still paying the taxes, they're still paying the insurance, so they still have hard costs. And again, for explanation purposes, let's say their actual costs are 1,800 bucks. Okay, maybe I should have put it over here. 1,800 bucks. So I'm giving them 2K. Their actual monthly expenses are 1,800 bucks. So they're walking away with 200 bucks every single month, right? To do nothing, to have an agreement for sale deal in place. That's why people do it. So in this particular deal, he did not want to sell because he did not want to pay the mortgage penalty. So that was a win for him. Now, again, I'm making up numbers here. He is now making $200 cash flow every single month from doing nothing. Okay. And the benefit is initially there was that down payment of, remember I was saying there was $23K that we had to pay to get into the contract. So we paid him $23,000 to get into the deal, our down payment, our skin in the game. He makes $200 every single month. And every single month when we pay that $2,000 as our mortgage payment, our principal goes down. It's an amortization schedule just like a mortgage, okay? Now, on the flip side, what do we end up doing with this deal? So let's say, again, I'm making up numbers here. Let's say we rent it out for $2,300. You see where I'm going here, right? We rent out this deal, 2,300 bucks. We pay them 2,000. We are now pocketing, right? Easy math. We are now making cash flow of $300 a month. All from a deal that we did not have to qualify for financing, that we don't technically own or not on title, right? That we're not responsible for. All the taxes, the insurance, the principal and interest are paid. So this is why a buyer would actually do it, okay? They're able to make some cash flow every single month, right? So cash flow right here is what we've accomplished through our agreement for sale. We've rented the asset. Now the selling portion, okay? This is the beauty right here. So if I can go to another investor and I can show them, hey, I've got a track record of renting it out for 2,300 bucks for the last 2 years or 3 years, right? There was 21 months on this term, so I want to use this example. So just under 2 years, I've showed them that I've rented it for this. And you know what, after 12 months, maybe I increase this to 25. So now I'm making 500 bucks a month, right? 6K a year. Anyway, for explanation purposes, I just want to go down this example. So I'm able to show the next investor that I was making 300 bucks cash flow a month, that this place has been rented, and I now want to liquidate the asset. So let's throw out some numbers. Let's say I purchased this for, let's say I bought the deal for 350K. 350K is what I got into the asset for. And now when I'm going to sell, and I'll do the math over here. So now I'm going to sell, and let's say I sell for, let's just keep it easy, $400,000. What would happen here? And you're thinking, okay, so easy math, 400K minus 350K. Well, not necessarily, right? Because every single month when I'm paying them their $2,000, there's some appreciation going on there. There's some recapture, going on there. So every single month, just like a mortgage, I am paying down a certain portion of recapture. So the 350, let's say, becomes 330. And again, I'm just making up these numbers here just for explanation purposes. So at the end of the 21 month term, I now sell the asset for $400,000. I owe them 330K, quick math, $70,000 on this particular deal. That's if I sell it to someone else, okay? That's the beauty of it. Now I could sell it to myself or flip it into my portfolio. That's in another video of ours. It's a whole other scenario, exit strategy. So let's break down this scenario, okay? So let's run through it with me. We bought a deal, did not have to qualify, did not have to go to a bank, did not have to do any of that. Literally closed this deal within like 4 or 5 days. Very, very quick closing. Paid them $2K a month, right? Which actually, their hard costs were $1,800. So they made $200 a month. They were happy. They received the $23,000 down payment, right? Which again, made it worth it for them. They are happy, the seller wins, okay, on this side. Now the buyer wins as well, right? Because we're making cash flow every single month, $300. And at the end of the day, we now sell the asset. And I know you've been watching this, so you're following along with me. This $70,000. Now the cool thing about agreement for sale, you might be thinking, Dave, it's real estate. You're gonna be subject to capital gains. Wrong. And I thought the same thing too. When I started looking into these deals, I'm like, okay, capital gains, just like other deals. And again, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a tax specialist, I'm a real estate investor. I'm only talking about my experiences. This is not advice. But what I'm getting at is it's not capital gains. And that's the thing, is you never actually own the asset. Therefore, it's not necessarily capital gains like when you sell a deal that you own. It's a different type of investment income. And again, talk to your accountants and CPAs about this, because it will depend on if you bought it personally, if you bought it in an entity, what does your personal income tax look like, right? Are you a T4 employee? Are you a W2 employee? Are you 1099? Are you self-employed? So all that will matter. And again, I'm definitely not an accountant or a CPA, but all I'm getting at here is that you never owned it, so you're not paying taxes on it like the capital gain structure like you would typically if you were selling an asset that you owned. So there you have it. This is the agreement for sale video that I wanted to shoot very quickly for you guys. I know one of the questions I always get is, how come you can do this? A power of attorney allows you to supersede and make sure that they can't do things that you wouldn't approve of, right? That they can't just sell it, that you are the actual one that has to sell it and gets to do the decision making. So thanks for staying right to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully it was educational for you. And if you want more videos on agreement for sales just like this, make sure to check out this one. I'm Dave, and I'll see you in the next video.